how would you explain the principle of being a quantum alchemist?
It helps you to shift your frequency. When we work with alchemy, what we're doing is we're going in and we're seeing where there's density in your field, where there's blocks, where there's limitations, where you keep looping around the same circumstances that look a little bit different and repeating cycle after cycle or pattern after pattern. And so I help you to become aware of those patterns, to be aware of those beliefs, to find that density in your body and to transmute it, to move it from dense to light. And we do that by helping you to shift your frequency. We can call it shifting your perspective. We can call it so many different things, but that's all it's doing. You're shifting from one station to another, one version of you to another. You're like, oh, this is not my truth anymore. That's not my truth. My divine truth is I'm worthy. I am enough. Because if that wasn't my truth, I wouldn't exist.
I am Sara Khliss. Welcome to 60 Minutes with a Woman. In this podcast, we share inspiring stories and real conversations with women who are making an impact. Here, you get to tune in with these incredible women and speak about resilience, growth, and meaningful change. If this episode inspires you, make sure to follow, like, and share because it's thanks to you that this show continues. Don't forget also to let me know in the comments what you want to see next. And wherever you're listening from, enjoy the podcast. Welcome to 60 Minutes with a Woman, Johanna. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
That's wonderful. Let me give a little more about your background to the listeners. Johanna, you help people walk through the fire of life and find the truth they've carried all along. Not because they're broken, but because they've become who they were always meant to be. You went from corporate life to spiritual work, turning loss into healing, family roots into wisdom, and grief into a path for others. Today, we'll hear your story and talk about your journey, your practice, and the way you guide people as a spiritual coach and as an alchemist. Welcome again.
Hey, thank you.
Johanna, tell us more about who you are, and also you were born with a very special gift, if you want to share that with us, and what your life looked like when you were in corporate America.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start with all of that. I just feel like I feel like I'm a regular person that just has these extrasensory abilities and extreme courage and bravery to walk this path, especially my path. I feel like I had a lot of confidence in myself before I incarnated here. I chose a hard road. But yes, I have been spiritual to some extent my whole entire life. I have been seeing beings since I was about 3 years old is the earliest I remember seeing them. And I would just know things that there's no way I should have known at a very young age. But around 7, 8, I shut it off. I had a precognition of my great-grandmother dying, and a year later on that same date, she died. And, being 7, 8, that's scary. You think you did it.
Absolutely.
You think something, that there's something not, I don't know the right word. It just was scary. And so I shut it off, but I never walked away completely because I was always obsessed with mediums. I was always obsessed with space and aliens. I used to come home from school and watch Montel Williams, the show Montel Williams, when Sylvia Browne would come on. I couldn't get enough of it. And I remember being a member of her agnostic spiritual church in LA. This was before computers. So I was like 10, sending in a request to be a part of this church and getting a weekly letter mailed to me.
You did?
Yes. Because I was...
You did that on your own?
Yeah, because I was
At
just
10?
so
Wow.
infatuated with spirituality and mediumship and not really even knowing really why,
Yes.
But yes, I went into corporate. I was a mom really young. I had my first child at 17. I was married at 17. So I didn't really go to college or anything like that. I just kind of jumped right into the loan industry for mortgages. So I did every aspect of that type of corporate. I was a very big salesperson, and then ended up shifting my career into insurance, where I actually had my own insurance agency for quite some time. And I stayed going back and forth between insurance and real estate and the mortgage industry. Kind of, they're all very similar, until 2015, when my father got sick. And he was my everything. He was where I anchored my safety. He was where he was the only person that I really felt had my back, or that had me.
Yeah.
And he was young. He was only 56 when he got diagnosed with liver failure.
That is very young.
Yeah. And so he
yes.
was given 4 months to live. And that was the year where everything flipped upside down. So everything I thought was going great. I was engaged to be married. I was planning a wedding. We were building a house. We were not even we had tore down the old property. We were going to build on the new property. So we were like in this limbo space when I found out everything had happened. And I had 3 weeks basically to sell my childhood home, to retire my father, sell everything he ever worked for pennies on the dollar, and move him across country to North Carolina, where I was living at the time. And only to come back to being fired from my corporate career, and just left sitting in shambles with a father who's dying.
Yeah.
My whole life falling apart right in front of my eyes, the home loan now in jeopardy. How are we going to finish paying for the wedding? Like,
Right.
everything just came to a head all at one time. And that's not anything I wish upon anybody, but that was the start of my reawakening. Actually, one of my reawakenings. My spiritual awakening itself began in 2008. And it began very slow, but when 2015 hit, there was no turning back. Like, every gift I had reawakened, from hearing spirit, seeing spirit, feeling them, knowing things, in addition to all of my trauma that I had repressed from childhood. I'm talking sexual abuse, physical, mental, emotional.
Lord.
I had experienced neglect, abandonment, everything, all of the stuff, part of that I repressed, came back all at one time. So imagine waking up one day and being able to see somebody's loved one, hear them, feel people's illnesses inside of their body that they don't even know that they have. Like, just everything is amplified by 1,000. And now you also have all this trauma that's been unlocked, and all these memories and all these flashbacks. All of that happened at one time, and pretty much brought me to the edge of suicide right after my dad died. And that was pretty much my rock bottom.
You didn't share that much and that deeply your story last time. I want to thank you for opening up. The listeners, I know, benefit a lot from somebody sharing so vulnerably their story. But I also know that it's not an easy thing to do.
No.
So again, thank you for that. It almost happened as it was not, you didn't control this awakening.
No.
Almost. This is what I hear. It just came from a lot of pain and sorrow, and it just woke up what was buried inside.
Yeah, for me, it was a slow process, my reawakening. Some people will have what's called a Kundalini awakening, and it will happen instantaneous. But the awakening process never ends. So there's a misconception sometimes that you just have one awakening and then you're on a journey. There's awakening after awakening, because all an awakening is becoming more aware of self. So in 2008, I had entered into what I call a dark night of the soul. And back then it just felt like a really deep, dark depression. And I was in it for a year and a half. And when I started to come out of it, it was like, I don't know who I am. Because everything that I had been conditioned to be, programmed to be, what people wanted me to be, it no longer resonated. And so for me, that's when my, everything started to shift. And I didn't realize that I was going through an awakening at that time. I just all of a sudden didn't know who I was and was like, I
Yes.
started to change my friends. I no longer resonated with what I believed, but I did not know what I now believed, right? So I was in this
Mm-hmm.
weird space between, and I took it so literal that I started doing ancestry and it wasn't that I was trying to figure out who I was from my family lineage, but that's how my ego interpreted it, right? And so I
Yes.
went down that rabbit hole. But it was a slow process. And then, so 2013, there was another awakening with the death of my grandmother, who was like my mother. And then 2015 is when everything just anything that was left just ripped open. And again, everything came in once. So you don't always know what's happening when you're going through it, but years, like, it was by 2013, looking back, I was like, oh, I see what was happening now.
It's difficult to see it when you are in the midst of everything
Yeah.
and you're not even realizing it's happening, right? Because in the midst of everything, it's just out of your control, and a lot of things are just, you know, happening without you even understanding
Yeah.
it, because there is a lot of feeling. So when you sit back with yourself down the road, and I think this happens with everybody, there is always a moment where we are like, oh, this was a difficult time, but now I see how I learned and how I grew from it.
Yeah.
It always takes this calm, right, after the storm for you to realize the benefits of what have happened, even obviously because this was a very sad time. So obviously it was even more difficult, but I can see how you unleashed your power
Yeah.
through that. And you spoke about something. You explained to us how you let go of a lot of your friends and things that you knew that was actually your life,
Yeah.
right? That was your comfort zone. Um, is that stepping into your authenticity overall?
It's the process of doing so. It's the
Okay.
stripping away of false identities. And whether we realize it or not, every single person walking the planet, it has many false identities or masks or parts of themselves that they operate through. Because the version of me that was in 2008 and 2013, those versions of me don't no longer exist, but they were who I was conditioned to be, who I was
Okay.
programmed to be. And honestly, because of my trauma as a child, the only way I got love or validation or even my basic needs met, because that's the level of neglect we're working with here, was I had to be a chameleon and be what anybody else needed me to be. I had to shift constantly. And then on top of that,
Mm.
it was a double whammy because at home, I had to be whatever they wanted me to be. I needed to manage their energy, their emotions. I needed to make sure I was
Yes.
taking care of everybody else and taking care of myself and doing things that no child my age should have known how to do in order to survive. And then on the other flip side of that same coin, nobody knew what was happening in my home as a child. There were some people that knew some things, but nobody ever knew the depth or extent of it. So when I walked out my door, it's like I put on a different version of me, different
Yeah.
mask, and lived a double life, because no one wants to go to school and tell their friends about how horrible life is at home. And so I
Yeah.
just wanted to be normal like everybody else and have like this life. And so I lived in delusion all of the time when I was outside of my home and inside, because it was my way of escaping what was
Mhm.
happening in my home.
Did you feel that achieving financial freedom could maybe help you obtain a better life and forget about what happened?
Uh, yes, it was never about chasing money for me. It was
Hmm.
about feeling empowered, feeling
Oh, I
successful,
see.
feeling
Yes.
seen and valued.
Yes.
And that's why I went so hard in my corporate career. Like I
Right,
was
right,
good at
right.
my job when I did. I climbed the ladder very quickly. I was a very good salesperson. And yes, I did make a lot of money. But at the end of the day, I still didn't feel worthy of that money. I still didn't feel like I was enough. And so I had created these in what I call invisible benchmarks of where I would hit a benchmark and then it wasn't enough. I was striving still for stuff that was still outside of my capability. And that again came from the programming of a child where, when you're 8 or 9 years old, 10 years old, trying to figure out how to get school clothes and shoes and things that you need without a job, without a car, without anybody to take you to do it. And, just getting any kind of basic needs met. And so that created that inside of me, these expectations that were unreasonable and unquenchable drive. But no matter how much money I made, I blew it because I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like I was enough because, again, programming from childhood.
That helps a lot, because I was wondering how you were able to repress and suppress that gift that you have, and live this very standard life of this person who climbs the social ladder. And now I understand where it comes from.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Well, and I wouldn't say I wasn't. I was still spiritual that whole time. I never really understood what it meant, but I was the friend that knew you were pregnant before anybody else did. Like, you could have taken a test and within an hour I'm calling you, are you pregnant? I would just know these things. Okay. And everybody used to laugh and be like, she just knows.
She's the intuitive friend.
she's just the one that knows things. And, I always had I never really believed in religion because of the rules that came with it. I always just had very open-minded beliefs, and I always was very intuitive. I always knew when people were lying to me, but that also helped me in sales, because when you grow up having to read somebody's energy in order to predict their next move, talk about a game changer in sales, because I knew what they were going to ask me before they did. And so, it only fueled those things. But that's why I always tell people, like, just because you
found something you were good at.
Yeah. And
so that felt good too.
Just because you have an awakening or you have these gifts, it doesn't mean that you walk away from corporate. It's that you learn how to use them for your benefit and for other people's benefit, right? It becomes to be of service.
Right. Absolutely. I see how. And you've written 2 books. One of them is called Holy Grail, and the other one is called Become Your Own Superhero. Yeah. Could you share with us what are your books about? And yes, I want to see them. And what inspired you to write them?
So this is the book that started my author journey. This is Become Your Own Superhero. Yes. My son was bullied in school. He was probably 7 or 8 when this started to come about, but he wasn't just bullied by kids. He was bullied by teachers. The school district wouldn't help. I went all the way to the superintendent. Like, it was a really big battle, and I couldn't find anything that I resonated with that would help him book-wise, journal-wise. And so I made one, and I never intended to publish it for the world. I wanted to publish it so it looked like a book for him. And so it's a power guide. So there's 21 days, there's journal entries, and it really helps children to understand what it means when somebody else is picking on them, right? So I would tell my son, I said, what happens when you get food poisoning? And he goes, well, I throw up. I say, okay, I want you to think about that from a word perspective. I said, when a kid goes to school and he's filled with all the mean things maybe mom and dad are saying to each other or to him, that acts like a poison. And then they go to school and it just comes out at anybody that will take it. And I said, I want you to look at it that way, that what people tell you is what's inside of them. It's not you.
It is true.
And it's so this is the point of why I made this book. And ironically, the kids didn't really take to it, but the parents did, and therapists did. So parents started using this to help understand and communicate with their children. And then a couple of years after it was published, my son has been in and out of therapy most of his life, just to give him a neutral person to speak to that's not mom or dad, right? Yes. And so we had one of our monthly meetings, and the therapist is talking about this book that she's using to help my son. And she's describing it. And I said, do you have the book in front of you? And she goes, yeah, let me grab it. I said, turn it over. She goes, "You wrote this?" I said, "Yeah, you're using a book I wrote for my son to help my son." And
What are the
what
odds?
are the
That is
odds?
incredible. Yes, that is
Yeah. So
incredible.
this is what started my journey. And I mean, I always knew I was going to write, but that's how I started. That's what happened with that book. And then Holy
What a
Grail.
funny anecdote.
I know.
It says a lot about the book, though. It says a lot about how inspiring it is for whoever want to help,
Yeah.
a young child to actually get over bullying.
Well, and it has affirmations in it, and it has questions, and it helps, because I think a lot of times parents, they get triggered by what's happening with their child from their own wounds, their own inner child stuff, and then they want to protect their child, and so they get they get in it with them. And so this book, yes, a child can do it on their own, but I think what it ended up being was it just gave parents the words to speak and ask questions to help their child find the answers inside of themselves, because that's the whole key, is teaching them young, like, hey, there's nothing outside of you. What you believe is all that matters. And I mean, this is what I teach adults today anyway, too,
Exactly. And what happens to you doesn't define you.
No.
Overall, right? You have to survive that issue. Unfortunately, you have to go through it. You can't control what's being thrown at you.
No.
However, you can control how you react to it and how you perceive yourself through the process.
And if you believe it or not, because again, what someone says or thinks about you has zero to do with you. Zero.
Yep.
And that's, I think, where people get caught up. And I'm like, well, if you believe it, that's showing you something inside of you that you have to ask, do I want to believe this? Because it's not your truth ever.
And what I found is that a lot of people who manage to hurt you, generally, it's because you haven't worked on your own self-love and self-trust and self-esteem, right? Because it hasn't been built. Your parents didn't help, or your surrounding growing up did not favor and promote these important pillars. And you have to do it yourself. So that's also, but it goes back to, once again, you're right. What people project on you, it's about them. It's not about you.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that your son has a mother who was able to walk him through one of the most difficult moments of an adolescent or a child's life. Because this sometimes goes too far. And I think it's not spoken about enough. Thankfully, you were there, and it's wonderful. I'm glad. Obviously, I recommend this book to everybody now, because I think that we all need somebody who went through that and successfully was able to survive it, in the best possible way, and uplifts the child also along in the process. So I'm going to repeat the title: Become Your Own Superhero.
Yeah,
there you go.
And then we have Holy Grail. So this is the journey through my soul's evolution. And this shares some of my story of what I went through and with the trauma, but it's really more about my journey of my spiritual awakening, and literally crying on my closet floor, buried at the bottom of the darkest cave with the cracks of light barely coming in, just praying to God and my guides to help me to move through and process all of this trauma and all of this pain, and how to work with everything, because I was an extrovert, like extreme extrovert. I love people. I was always out with a lot of people. I love going to events. And going through my awakening made me go the opposite, where I couldn't be around anybody. And I didn't know how to manage my energy. I didn't know about energetic boundaries. I didn't know what to do with all this trauma. It was just debilitating. And I went from this super successful, empowered, strong woman, wounded, strong woman, right? It wasn't from a good place, but nevertheless, to feeling alone, unsafe, and not knowing who I was or what to do. And I remember one of the days that I was on my closet floor, just in utter surrender of I need help. and the guides bringing through what I call the purification process, which was something that was just a simple formula to help me in real time as I walked my everyday life to be able to catch those moments when the triggers happen, when the limiting beliefs show up, and be able to work with it and reframe it and move through it. And it started to change my life with practice. And it's something that I've gone on to teach in almost every single course that I've put out. Obviously, it's in my book. I have tons of YouTube videos on it. And it's something that I share very freely because what's happened today is we have all this, it's a noisy space right now for personal development. Everybody thinks they know everything. And not that there isn't value in what people say, it's just that we come up with these complicated processes and people feel like, oh, I have to sit and I have to do this and I have to spend all this time. And it's like, that's not going to work for me. I was raising kids. I had animals. I was running a business. I was married. I was trying to do all the things. I didn't have the time to shut down. And that's a double-edged sword in itself because it led me to stage 3 adrenal fatigue from not stopping and slowing down. But at the same time, I needed a process that I could live my life with. And that's what the purification process gave to me. It gave me the tools I needed in a minute or less at any time of day, whether I'm in the grocery store, doctor's office, or at home by myself, to be able to handle anything that triggered inside of me.
For someone who doesn't know the work you do, you went through your own awakening. How would you explain the principle of being a quantum alchemist?
It helps you to shift your frequency.
Okay.
So when we talk about alchemy, what we're saying is moving your body from a state of density into a crystalline light. And so something that the guides always say that's probably going to blow people's minds is this: your own baggage that you came in with doesn't weigh anything. So if you feel heavy, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel weighed down, you're carrying somebody else's baggage. You're carrying other people's beliefs. You're carrying literal weight inside of you that is not meant for you in the form of beliefs and programmings and trauma. So when we work with alchemy, what we're doing is we're going in and we're seeing where there's density in your field, where there's blocks, where there's limitations, where you keep looping around the same circumstances that look a little bit different and repeating cycle after cycle or pattern after pattern. And so I help you to become aware of those patterns, to be aware of those beliefs, to find that density in your body and to transmute it, to move it from dense to light. And we do that by helping you to shift your frequency. We can call it shifting your perspective. We can call it so many different things, but that's all it's doing. You're shifting from one station to another, one version of you to another. You're like, oh, this is not my truth anymore. This is something that I was told or made to feel as a child, or by my ex-husband, or by whatever the case may be, a bully in school. But that's not my truth. My divine truth is I'm worthy. I am enough. Because if that wasn't my truth, I wouldn't exist. I wouldn't exist.
What I'm hearing is that you define trauma as being a weight that you're carrying that you shouldn't, basically.
Yes, but not just trauma.
Okay.
It's limiting beliefs as well, which is not necessarily always from trauma, right? And it can be big trauma or little trauma. It's programming from society. It's programming from your parents. All of those things can create weight or density in your body that blocks your light from being magnetic, from you being seen, from you being feeling empowered and, moving forward.
That is wonderful, because I know that a lot of, I've interviewed also coaches who were certified in NLP, and other ones were certified in trauma, but I feel that this really regroups all the possible negative energies that live within you, or at least this is now what I understand, that you manage to shift through. Do you is there any space for speaking about it in your program? Do people speak about it, or is it a practice with steps to follow?
It's not necessarily, well, I mean, the purification process has its steps to follow, but at the end of the day, it's working with the mind, the body, and the soul, your spirit.
Okay.
So it's teaching people how to, first, you have to have self-awareness. So we always begin there. If you're not somebody who's aware of yourself, we have to practice self-awareness to begin with. So it depends on where somebody comes in when they come into work with me in private mentorship. So most of the time, those people are already self-aware, but if they're not, we work at becoming aware of self. So becoming aware of the words you speak, becoming aware of the thoughts that you're having, becoming aware of the actions that you're taking, of the relationships that you're calling in, friendships, bosses, significant others. It's really starting to look at everything, because your reality is a mirror of you. So you're never manifesting anything. You're only manifesting who you are, always, no matter what. You can only ever manifest who you are. So we have to start with what's in your field, what's in your reality that is not aligning. And now we have to figure out where that belief is inside of you that is projecting that reality out into the world. Once we start there, now we have to reprogram a new belief. And we have to do it from obviously creating the neural pathway, and which is what a lot of NLP does. But we also have to make sure we're doing it in the body. So it's about creating structures in your life that create discipline to acting, what we call acting as if, right? If you were worthy, what decision would you make, right? If you weren't afraid, which decision would you make? How would you respond? If you felt worthy and felt like you were enough and the queen that you were, would you really go out with that guy, or would you wait for the other one? And so it's not just about one part. I work with embodiment. So we're working with all aspects, and how to work with your energy field, how to reframe the beliefs, how to start changing your everyday actions, habits, so that you can start to embody it. And when you do all of those things at once, that's when you really start to see the acceleration.
I love it, because there is a lot of accountability, but not through telling yourself that things are not serving you, but by saying, all right, but let's say that you are somebody else, right? And then now you want the best for this person, what would you choose? Yeah. And now this person cannot lie anymore about what they want, right? Yeah. So it's pretty intimidating, but at the same time, a lot of people need it.
Yeah, and it takes time. Everybody's going to be at a different pace, and if we tap into something and they're like, oh, I can't get behind that, we back it up and we say, well, can you at least say that it's possible? Because anything is possible. So if you can instead say, it's possible for me to have this.
It starts with a seed in the brain. You have to start
somewhere. And so I've always been a big believer of, don't stand in the mirror and say, I love you to yourself if you don't. Instead, what can you get behind that's a little stretched out? Can you, instead of looking at your body and saying you're too fat or too skinny or not enough, can you be like, I'm grateful that my legs are strong and have carried me. I'm grateful for this extra weight that has protected me. Whatever it is, you have to start somewhere, but it has to be something that you can get behind, because you can't lie to yourself. You can't outrun yourself. You can't gaslight yourself into believing something. You have to start where you are and come into acceptance, and then you can receive what's next.
And I love it, because we tend to sometimes want very superficial things. Yeah. Whereas when you can dig a little deeper into what you already have, you realize that you're more fortunate than you thought you were. Yeah. So you're already treating yourself better, but understanding also that you're very lucky. Yeah. I see how this works, really. It's absolutely. And when you speak about a quantum shift, how do people usually experience it in your practice?
The quantum shift comes, and that's what my sessions are called. They're called quantum shift sessions. I use the radio station analogy. If you don't like what's being played on Rock 105 and you change to 97.3 and you're like, oh, I like this. It's going to change everything, right? You're all of a sudden your mood picks up, you're dancing, you're singing, everything, it gets a little bit lighter. The same is true about you. You have a frequency inside of you, just like the radio station, and you can choose to shift that into a different version of you, a different station, different reality. And this is something that, I hear a lot of people say, oh, that sounds too simple or too easy. This is part of the issue with societal programming, is we've been programmed to believe that things have to be hard and that they have to take a lot of time and do a lot of work. And then there are times where things take a little bit of time, but again, it doesn't have to. So for me, I really mastered the quantum shift when you lose everything 3 or 4 times in a row, over a 12-year period of time, and are starting over and over and over again with nothing and having this extreme lack and extreme loneliness and all these things, I could continue to sit in that frequency of and victim of poor me, why does this keep happening to me or whatever. Or I could say, well, this isn't making anything better. So how can I live my best life? How can I enjoy myself? How can I see through the rose-colored glasses, even if my circumstances are bleak? Even if I'm scared to death, even if I don't know if I'm going to be able to eat tomorrow, if I'm going to be able to pay that bill tomorrow, how can I do that? And I learned inside, it's like, oh, as soon as I shift into a different version of me, a different feeling, a different perspective, tell myself a new story, that's when the outside actually changes. Most people are waiting when I get the 6-figure book deal, when I meet the man of my dreams, when I get that big corporate job, when I make this amount of money, that's when I'll be happy. That's when I can do this. This is when I can do that. And I was that person. I was like, oh, even after my awakening, I was like, oh, I want to travel. I want to do all these things. But I was like, oh, I don't have the money. I don't have this. I don't have that. And then I learned very quickly that if you want to do something, just go and do it, and everything you need will show up. And if you aren't happy with your reality, you have to accept it first. Acceptance is not agreement. You have to accept what is. That's how we come back to peace and neutrality. And then from there, now you can shift and say, all right, let me start with gratitude. What is there something I can be grateful for today? Something small. And then you kind of domino that, and you start to tell a new story. You can say you're commuting from work, or you can say, oh, I just left this awesome meeting where I had X, Y, and Z. Like, you get to create it. Doesn't matter what it is. You get to tell yourself
and that's the quantum shift.
Yeah, you tell yourself a new story.
Okay.
And in the telling the new story, in finding the gratitude, in the acceptance, now all of a sudden your reality can start to shift and change. So the shift happens externally after the shift happens internally, and the shift is in your power, 100%. You get to choose. Do I want to sit in victim? Do I want to sit in poor me? Do I want to sit in anger? Do I want to sit in feeling unworthy? Or do I want to start to begin to tell a new story and to see things differently? Right. And sometimes we need help to do that. That's why there's people like me that exist, because when you're in it, you can't see anything but what you're in. So when you go talk to somebody else or get coaching, or again, come to someone like me and work, I'm going to pull you out of it and help you see the other perspectives that are available and let you choose which one feels true for you. Mm-hmm. Or do you want to go back inside and be in it again? Because being in it is not going to get you anywhere but more of the same.
And on that note that you just said, what you just said, I actually feel that people think that things are hard, but at the same time, I have the impression that because they want to stay in denial when it's easy, they don't want to accept it either.
Yeah.
They just decide that, wait, if it was that easy and it's all on me to change my life, it means that this whole time I've been lying to myself. And this truth is harder to process than a lifetime of misery.
Yes. looking in the mirror and realizing that I was the one who was perpetuating my reality was a hard pill to swallow. Now, the trauma, I didn't cause the trauma. I was not responsible for the trauma. But as I became an adult and started to have this awareness that I can either choose to remain in these beliefs and choose to remain operating the same way, or I can become the creator of my destiny and say, oh, I get to choose something different. And even if it's just how you feel inside, this is where people, there's this little window where people sabotage themselves. They start doing this work that I do of helping people tell the new story, hold the new frequency. But they're like, still seeking. I don't see it. Nothing's changing. There's a space between. We call it the void.
Okay.
And energy manifestation, anything that's physical, including this book, this is all energetic particles. But because I believe so deeply that this was created, it can be physical. I focused on this. I created this with focus and intention. What you focus on becomes physical. What you focus on expands. And so you have to stay focusing on the internal until you see the physical. And some people give up because they're like, oh, it's not happening fast enough. Or I started doing this and everything started to fall away and my life started to burn down. And I'm like, that's perfect because you decided you wanted a different reality. So that means the things that are physical in your current reality have to go away. You're going to lose the job. The partner's going to disappear. The friends are going to disappear. Whatever it is, you may get sick and all of a sudden have to spend a lot of time laying down and resting when you've been someone who's been go, go, go constantly. So yes, things are going to fall away. Things are going to look scary. Things are going to look chaotic, but that's because you can't build something new on top of something old.
Yes.
It's got to implode.
Absolutely. Yes, it has to. People are not ready to hear that.
No.
I love it. It's absolutely
And while you're
true.
sitting in the rubble of everything that's imploding, you got to be like delusional. Like, nope, this is my reality. Nope, this is what I want to feel. Nope, this is what I choose. And you have to say no to everything that is not that until that new physical forms.
And you said it was the analogy of the book. You could have given up. You could have decided to put your mind into something different.
Yeah.
Maybe the ideas were not pouring the way you were expecting them to. Maybe the inspiration wasn't there. Maybe you couldn't anything. Maybe you something happened in your life that prevented you from printing this book and making it a reality, but you pushed through.
Yeah.
You really wanted it to happen, and now it's there.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful analogy, really. I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that. It actually puts words on things that are very emotional, very much felt, and not translated into what we know. So I feel that this analogy bridges a little bit the gap between what's happening and then where people want to go.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. And so you used to do psychic reading, right?
Yes.
And now you help people feel empowered, right, and trust themselves. Yeah. What made that shift happen?
The biggest thing that I saw with people who came to me for psychic readings was they became dependent upon me. They wanted to constantly know what was coming next. What's going to happen now? What's going to happen now? Or they were so attached. Am I going to get the person? Is this man going to choose me? Am I going to get the career? Is this program going to launch? And what I started to realize was I wasn't helping anybody by doing that. There's a saying that says you can feed a man fish or you can teach him to fish, right?
Yes.
And so what I realized is this was a stepping stone for me. And I enjoyed doing the readings, right? I did mediumship for a little while and then I did psychic readings and I would do a mixture of both. But what I found was most beneficial for people was teaching them how to read their own energy, how to trust in their divine self. Because here's the thing, you're always trusting in something. It's not that you lack self-trust. It's that you're trusting in other versions of you that don't believe in you. You're trusting in the old programming. You're trusting in the identities. It's not that you lack confidence. It's that you're confident that you're unworthy. You're confident that you're not
You came
enough.
here to wake people up, I think.
And so it's like,
Yes.
let me show you that uncertainty is actually the magic that you came here for. You're here for the road trip. You're here for the adventure. You're not here to have certain outcomes. You're here to say, I trust me and what I know to be true for me and what excites me. And you use that and for your fuel, and you move forward in that way. You always come back to your own truth and not anybody else's. And so when I started helping people to learn how to read their own energy, to trust their intuition, and to step into their power, I saw the light come on and behind people's eyes. I saw people start to have courage. And then when I started telling my story, I realized that there was so much healing for people in my own testimony, because it showed them, if I can go from every worst case scenario you can imagine and not become the villain that I could have easily become, not become a drug addict or an alcoholic or all of those things, and instead had the courage to choose love and to turn that pain into power to help people and to spread the light, I was like, this is what I'm here for.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really goes beyond just, once again, accepting self-sabotage or even feeling shame, because this is the thing. We carry a lot of shame and guilt.
Yes.
And sometimes it becomes just too heavy to shift, but you're really here to tell them no.
Yeah.
First of all, it's never too late.
Never.
But also, you don't deserve what you're inflicting to yourself.
Yeah.
If it feels wrong, then you deserve to be happy. So let's work together and make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, that's very beautiful. Thank you for that, Johanna. It's really, really, really beautiful. I know a lot of people want to help. I know there is a lot. There are a lot of coaches out there, but I also know that when it comes from within, because of your personal story, it hits different. Really, it really does.
And I mean, that's why like talk therapy doesn't work for a lot of people. We need so much more than just someone to listen to us. I mean, listening is important. But also it helps when you go to somebody who has literally walked through the inferno. Because if you just learned a modality, if you just learned NLP, but you've never been through hard things, if you went to school to be a therapist, but you had a charmed life, you're not going to understand what somebody's going through and how challenging it is at times. Because it feels like you're standing in front of Mount Everest sometimes. And you need someone to say, look, I've made it to the top and over. Let me show you how to do it. Let me walk with you. I'm not going to do it for you, but I will walk with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think this is all people need and want deep down. They don't want to have to rely on somebody for the rest of their life. This is what happens with therapists. And I'm all for emptying your bag in, a stranger's office. It's fine, because I think that it feels good to be heard. But the problem is you don't walk out of there with a solution. So you're bound to always come back and empty this bag over and over again. And you assume also that you're going to be able to fill your bag once it's emptied, right? So you go back to your miserable life, you fill up your bag, and then you empty it, and vice versa. And it's just like a vicious circle.
It is. And what people don't teach you is you're not meant, just because you empty all of that out, you're not meant to fill it back up. That the emptiness that we sometimes feel inside of ourselves is the space that you have created for the thing that you actually want to have in life.
Right.
You have to be patient and sit in the space, because if you start filling it up with shit, then you're not going to there's no space when that thing arrives. So sometimes you have to sit in the empty space. Know that you're worthy, know that you're enough, know that that is what you're feeling is not emptiness. It's the space that you've created. The same way, if you buy all new furniture, you have to get rid of the furniture, and you might have to sit in an empty house for a few days.
Yes.
It's no different.
Again, beautiful analogy. And you're just waiting for something beautiful to come. So the expectation should fill you with joy, not doubt. But indeed, the transition and the uncertainty sometimes is just scary. So beautiful analogy. I would like to ask you one more question about your program. And I think people really got a good understanding of how you are intuitive, first of all, but also gifted you are.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, how do you help them step into their intuition and then just feel comfortable following their intuition and trusting their intuition?
Yeah. Again, we come back to the self-awareness piece.
Yes.
And the more you become aware of self, the more you'll start to recognize that you already are intuitive. Everybody's intuitive. And we just have to help you figure out how intuition speaks to you. Does it come as a voice in your head that's in your, sounds like you? Does it come with a feeling in your body? Does it just a knowing that happens? So we start there, and we help people to start to recognize when these moments happen and to start to just trust it, because intuition speaks in incomplete sentences or short phrases, and it is a very neutral charge. Like there's no excitement, there's no fear. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like you're driving and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know why, but I feel like I got to go right here instead of the way that I always go. And it turns out that saved you from getting in a car accident, or it saved you 10 minutes for your drive, right? So it's like, you don't know why you feel like you need to do something. There's no story. And that's the biggest piece right there. There is no story with intuition, with divine guidance. Nothing. There's no story. There's no high excitement. There's no fear. Whereas when your ego's talking to you, it's going to ask you why, how. It's going to be mean. It's going to be judgmental. It's going to be repetitive. It's going to be like loud and obnoxious. It's going to come with a nervous system reaction. And so people have to slow down and start to become aware of the thoughts they think, how they're feeling in their body. And that's the other piece is one of the courses that it's in Unity and the Energy Matrix, both of those. We spend a lot of time in this where it's like, you got to learn what your energy feels like when you're by yourself. Because otherwise you're never going to be able to understand where your energy ends and someone else's begins. And a lot of times the feelings you pick up, the thoughts you pick up, it's because you're commingling in other people's auric fields, and we're just walking sponges. Everybody is. And so you're like, you woke up in a great mood, and then you went to the store, and by the time you got home, you were pissy and irritable, and your husband's like, what happened to you? You just went to the store. Well, you didn't realize that you were taking on someone else's energy. And so you have to begin with what do you feel like alone in that neutral state? And then we take a process of introducing things and helping people. And in that area now, you can be like, okay, what are my actual thoughts? What does my body actually feel like? And so that's the starting point of where we go with that. And I still get some people that do that, but I get a lot more people now who their gifts are opening and they're walking away from corporate and they're wanting to develop their gifts.
You are trouble for America.
Yeah. And but again, they feel worthy and empowered when they're working for somebody else. Right. But when you go into business for yourself, utilizing your intuition or your gifts, whether that's art, whether that's doing readings, whether that's energy healing, whatever it is, now you're selling yourself. And that's when people really have the issues with their worth. It's not like you're working for someone else and someone's paying you. Now you're selling yourself, your gifts. And a lot of times our gifts, they come so natural and easy to us that we don't see value in it because, again, societal programming, things that are of value are hard to come by. You have to work hard to get them. And so things that come natural and easy for us that we don't necessarily even see as gifts are our gifts. And those are the highest value. It doesn't matter if it comes easy. It's still very valuable. So I work with a lot of people who are wanting to step out into the world and be of service to humanity in whatever way that shows up.
I feel that sometimes also, if you cannot put a price on what you do, what a company is going to do is put a price on your expertise and experience, right? When you're an employee. it's hard to price
Yeah.
yourself.
No, and it's hard because when you're just starting to get used to your gifts and utilizing them and recognizing them, and you're like, I I don't know how to put a price on this because I yet don't value it completely, because I don't
Right,
quite
right.
trust it yet completely. So it's a little bit of a process. You have to start where you are and we gradually expand out. But I've watched, God, so many people go from these timid little insecure, I don't trust myself. I don't know how to use this. I'm not good at this or whatever, to out there just killing it. Out there just
Yeah,
shining their
it's
light and
beautiful.
building these audiences, and it's I get so proud watching them, you know? And I always say
I
it's
can
not me.
only
I didn't do
imagine.
that. You did it. I
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
there holding the light, guiding you, standing next to you, reminding you of your truth. That's all I was doing. You had to do the work. It wasn't me. I'm not, yes, I'm magic, but you have to do the work. I can't do it for
Yeah,
you.
it is true. I wanted also to speak about something that I asked you permission
Yeah.
for, because it's a little controversial, and it's about the trend. I'm just going to use that
Yeah.
word right now. Okay. I didn't want to, but I'm going to say it because I think it's a trend, about ayahuasca and psilocybin.
Yeah.
So basically, magic mushroom. The reason why I say that it is a trend is just because everybody speaks about it right now. But not only that, everybody even considers this to go through this special. I'm going to say cosmic opening of your energy, right? Because they want to heal from
Yeah.
trauma and they want to uncover what's inside, what's blocking them. And you worked also with these.
Plant
I'm going to
medicines.
say plant medicine. Thank you. I was going to say substances, but I was like plant medicine. And I wanted to ask you, what are the benefits and how does it change people?
The benefits are, we could talk for an hour about them. Ayahuasca is a blood purifier.
Okay.
And it is not something I would ever suggest anybody take lightly. Um, we are in an era of returning to plant medicine as it should be, instead of pharmaceuticals that are
Fair enough.
petroleum based and is not matched to our physical body. Our body doesn't know what to do with
Right.
those. Whereas plant medicine, our body has used for millennia, and so it knows what to do with it. Ayahuasca is a journey that's individual for every person and every time you do it. And so every single person will have a different experience every single time. And no matter what your intentions are, ayahuasca is going to bring up from the depths of of the darkness inside of you and put it right in front of you to look at, to see, hear, feel, and accept into your heart. Because whether you deem it dark or light, it's still a part of you. And it needs to be unconditionally loved. And that's how we heal. That's how we transmute, is through acceptance, not through resistance. But with ayahuasca, it also gives you an opportunity to experience what some call God, which is just this pure consciousness, is really what God is. It's just pure consciousness. And it gives you an opportunity to experience that in a visceral way that you will never forget, and open you up to that you are a spiritual being in a human body, in a human experience. You are not a human being. You are a spiritual divine being having a temporary human experience of where you came here to just want to experience physical reality and to remember who you are. And so ayahuasca is great for that. It does help you clear trauma. The amount of trauma I cleared in my ceremony probably could have taken me anywhere from 5 to 10 years in doing what we call the work or shadow work. I was able to clear in one 9-hour ceremony. And I do have on my own podcast and on YouTube, I have videos of going through everything that I experienced in ayahuasca. and in my book that will be coming out soon. But if you're curious, you can look it up on my YouTube channel and I'll go into more depth. But with ayahuasca, what I will say, the thing that people need to hear the most is, if you're going to do it, have a coach that you already are working with, that you've already established. Because for every ceremony or retreat that you go on where you do ayahuasca, that can be one ceremony, that could be a retreat that has 3 ceremonies. It takes about 6 months to integrate what you are exposed to and what is brought up in front of you to be healed. It takes about 6 months to integrate that. If you keep jumping and doing ceremony after ceremony, thinking that ayahuasca is going to heal you, that's where you're incorrect. It's only going to blow you more open. You're going to get more and more aware, but less and less grounded in your body, because you haven't taken the time to integrate that information, that knowing, those changes in your neural pathways, and embody that into your body and into your physical life. And so I have witnessed people who just continuously do ceremony after ceremony, thinking it's going to heal them and save them. No, it's a tool, but you have to take that awareness, that newfound understanding, and you have to actually put that into practice now. And you have to step out in the world and be that new version of you. And that's the integration process. Whereas with mushrooms are really great for reprogramming and repatterning your neural pathways. So mushrooms are really good to do with a shaman in ceremony, where they guide you into. It can be done to guide you into uncovering things that are hidden, uncovering blockages that you can't see, and also to guide you into wiring a new perspective, a new reality. And it can just accelerate the process. But mushrooms are really good for rewiring the brain.
And both needs integration after.
Yes. At least 6 months. And this is, unfortunately, it is a little trendy, but at the same time, we are, again, coming back to our roots of what how our ancestors did. But with the trendy factor, I think a lot of people think that this is a magic pill, that they're going to do this ceremony and they're going to be healed and they're going to come out of it and life's going to be great. And unfortunately, no, what it's done is ripped you open and exposed everything that you weren't willing to really look at or deal with, and gave you an opportunity to come into acceptance and love with it. And now when you come out the other side, you're going to be a different person, but you can re-inflict the old patterns and the old beliefs very easily if you don't have the tools or the support to help you integrate everything that you've just gone through. Because it stays in your system for quite some time. I mean, you're not hallucinating, you're not doing any of that anymore, but it's still in your blood. Yeah. You know, it's still in there and it's still doing its magic. It's still working. And same with mushrooms. And so you really do need to have the support in your life. And so I always say, if plant medicine calls to you, that's how it works. You'll feel a calling. It'll start showing up everywhere around you. It might even be this that's starting the process of it showing up for you. If it's something that you feel like you want to go into, the advice I will give you is, 1, make sure you find yourself a good coach or mentor that's going to be there to help you, who also understands plant medicine or understands trauma. And 2, research your shaman, whether it's mushrooms or ayahuasca or any other psychedelic. Research your shaman. That shaman needs to come from a very good lineage, and their beliefs have to resonate with you. So my shaman, I did not do this. My shaman believed that you had to walk through hell to heal. And so my ceremony, I went through hell to heal. But if I would have chose a shaman that believed that you could heal through joy or love and compassion, my experience may have been different, because these ceremonies are 50% the medicine, 50% the beliefs of the shaman who's leading it.
Thank you. That's very important. I didn't know. I absolutely didn't know. I understood that the shaman was there to generate the power of the plant, right? But I didn't know that the way they were channeling that power was directly affected by their beliefs and the way they wanted to channel their power. So that's very interesting. I think this will help a lot of people make a better decision.
Yeah.
And the thing, if I have to throw my personal opinion on this, which holds no value, obviously, to anybody but to me, but what I realize is, and the reason why I want to say it anyways, is just because I think that everybody is wonderful. I want everybody to be happy. There is nothing that I don't want to hold anybody back ever.
Yeah.
However, I think that sometimes it might be perceived as a way of escaping reality, but now because we say it's healing, it makes it okay. And the reality is this euphoric state you are going into, this transcendent experience, and you reconnecting with your spiritual being and your all the energy you're really full of, being able to get, like, to touch it, to feel it, sometimes does not allow you, once you come back here with people, to fully enjoy who you are as a healed person, because you want to go back to that. The experience was too great.
Well, and what I will tell you is majority of these experiences are not euphoric. And that's what people don't realize. You're not escaping reality by doing plant medicine. You're being forced to face reality. And that's the difference. Now, can you have euphoric experiences within it? Yes. My first cup of ayahuasca, I had a euphoric experience. But by cup 2, I had to face reality. I had to face my pain. I had to face my anger. So people who use LSD or mushrooms in a recreational way, yeah, maybe they might be using it to do escapism. But when you're doing it in a healing ceremony, you are doing it to face reality. You're doing it to face yourself. And again, there are euphoric experiences in that, and they can open your mind and expand you. But that's why I always say, like, don't go just doing one after another, because there are people that I have witnessed, and even
they take microdoses every day.
Well,
some of
the
them
microdose is a whole nother story. I've done microdosing as well, but I've met people who have just done way too much plant medicine too fast, and they're just really out there because you're just becoming more and more expanded, more and more in touch with your, let's just say, your cosmic self or the other versions of yourself. And you're not grounded in your physical body, which is what you came here to do. There has to be that balance. We are meant to bring our spirituality, our divinity through the human vessel, through the human experience. It's not separate from our human experience. So yeah, there are times where people can use this medicine to escape, but if you're doing it with a shaman, you're doing it in a healing ceremony, you're going to be facing reality, your reality that you have not had the courage to face. The medicine doesn't give you a choice. Essentially, it says here, you chose to take this. Now you're going to look at this, and you're going to look at it until you choose to accept it and make peace with it. But again, everybody's experience is different. Every single time they do a medicine, it's going to be a different experience. And so there's a lot more that goes into it, but yeah, if you're just taking, because LSD is another one that you can microdose and do. There's so many different ones, but if you're just doing it for escapism, you're not going to do it with a shaman. You're not going to do it with someone like that. You're going to do it recreationally. And I would never promote that, but I would promote, if you're serious, do your research, pick a good shaman, have an idea of some of the things that you feel like you need to heal or want to heal, but don't be attached to those, because once you take that medicine, the medicine is going to do what is most needed for you. It's going to, don't be attached to it. Let the medicine take you on the journey of healing.
That's a good point to bring, actually, because I would definitely, if I had to use it, I would make that mistake. I know myself, I would want to control the experience.
Yeah,
so by the way, on that note, have you ever worked with people who were not satisfied with the plant medicine path?
No, I've never met anybody that has regretted taking plant medicine.
Or maybe the results were not what they thought it was going to be, and now.
Yes, in a sense, like again, it's when people did it thinking it's going to fix them and that they're not going to have to do anything else.
Yes.
When the plant medicine is really there to help you to see things that are buried deep, that are blocking you, that you can't see, the medicine kind of takes away all of those barriers and blocks and just allows for you to see everything and for what it is.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. And that's why I've mentored a few people who were getting ready to do plant medicine. And a few of those people had major control issues. Like they needed to have control over everything. And I always say, we have to nip that in the butt before you do plant medicine. Because if you try to do ayahuasca or iboga as another one in control, it's going to be a really bad trip for you. You're going to be 8 hours of misery because you can't control it. There's no control. So you have to be willing to let go of control. And sometimes that is the experience they have. And that was part of my experience. I was fighting and in resistance, and I just looped over and over and over until I surrendered. And then I just had to keep surrendering over and over again until I finally heard a voice. I was like crying, make this stop, make it stop. Because once you take the medicine, you can't get out of it. It has to run its course. Whereas if you take mushrooms, you can drink like Diet Coke or even pure sugar, and it will speed it through your system faster. There's nothing that will take ayahuasca out of your system. You have to run its course.
I didn't know that.
And so I was laying there basically.
So it's a commitment.
Yes. There's nothing, there's literally nothing you can do to make it stop. And I was crying, make it stop, make it stop. And I heard a voice in my head that said, then stop. And I was like, wait, I have to stop and it will stop. And that's when I realized that I was the one inflicting all of my suffering in my life. Because I was in such resistance to letting go that I was just like a hamster wheel, pulling the pain forward again, pulling the pain forward again, pulling the pain forward again. And when I stopped and accepted what was and fully surrendered to the now moment, even if I didn't agree with it, and opened my heart and said, okay, this is what it is. Now I could receive something new next. You can't receive until you accept first. And otherwise
you gave me the chills.
Otherwise you're just on a hamster wheel. And it's like the experience, the people, the things, they're not exactly the same, but it's all the same energy, repeating. And so people come to me to do that, to break the patterns, to break the cycles, and to be able to shift into a new cycle, a new reality. But plant medicine, if I still battled my resistance and my control when I did mine. And I literally just, like, again, it was like everything moved at hyper speed. I just kept moving through it over and over again and fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. And it was like, they just said, then stop. I was like, oh, shit. Okay. I stopped. And then everything shifted. And so all of these things that I've experienced, whether it be through surrendering on my closet floor and being gifted the purification process, or through ayahuasca, or through any of the other crazy things that I've been through, it's been a continuous showing of what surrender does and how powerful it is.
I love that you spoke about how much work and surrendering there needs to be done, and it's never ending.
Yeah, it's never ending.
That's beautiful, because it gives us a perspective of never stopping to bloom or to grow, as we don't want to stop loving or feeling happy. We want it to happen over and over again. And I think that indeed, if you can see the positive in that, it's a beautiful process. And life is a beautiful process.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful. When you help people through your program, do you want to tell us, so the listeners they know what to expect, obviously, now, but a story maybe that happened that maybe marked your memory, or you remember about somebody who really shifted from who they were to who they were meant to become?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to use any names, but I do have a woman who, similar to me, she came in with a very strong fear of death. fear. It was her rejection abandonment wound, that when you have a very deep abandonment wound, everything feels like death. If this doesn't happen, I'm going to die. If I don't do this myself, I'm going to die. It's a visceral feeling. And she was very much somebody who needed to control everything in her reality. And she wasn't realizing that it was that rigidity and that control that was keeping her stuck, because she so desperately wanted to feel light and free, and she wanted to do all of these things, but she was just continuously stuck in this cycle. And so
Right.
it took, she went through private mentorship. My private mentorship is a 6-month program. She went through it twice. And I just watched her. The first 6 months she fought it. She did the work, but she fought it. And it was just that resistance. But the second round, I just watched her step into a version of herself that was so empowered and so trusting and so free, because she would take everything somebody says as judgment or rejection. And it was like everybody was attacking her. And if she wasn't in control of this or she wasn't in control of that, the end of the day, it boiled down to this fear of death or fear of losing one of her kids or her husband or someone else. And I honestly wasn't sure she was going to get there, because just the level of resistance and control she had inside of herself because of her childhood trauma. And she's not even in this industry. She is still in corporate America. But I have just watched her let go and make these huge leaps and shift into this version of herself that doesn't take things personally and lives so free and so light, and has boundaries now and speaks up for herself instead of attacking somebody, and doesn't take what people say. Instead, she would just lash out before or shut down. And now she's like sits with it, and she speaks in a space of response and empowerment and advocates for herself. And I think she's one of my favorite just because I've known her for so long. And I've actually worked with her in person, not just online, but also I've worked with her children. And because she didn't go on to be someone like me, she stayed in that corporate world. And I'm watching her infuse awareness and intuition and open people's minds in areas that most don't, we don't usually reach those areas. And I don't know, every time I talk to her, every time we touch base, I'm always just so proud of her, so proud of her. And so she'll always hold a special place in my heart.
I hope she'll listen to the podcast now. That's a beautiful, beautiful testimony to the work you do and how you feel about seeing your client thrive and become the better version of themselves, really. I want to ask you something else on that note again. Tell me, your work is very intense. How do you recuperate and fill your own tank to keep on going?
Well, so it's intense, but I have really good energetic boundaries. And so I don't carry people's, what happens in our sessions, I don't carry that forward at all. It's just a container that we hold it in while we're working together. And then that container dissolves. In a sense, that energy dissolves and is transmuted when we exit our session. But for me, it's taking the time to do my rituals to kind of reconnect to my body. It's exercise, meditation, but meditation isn't always sitting down and sitting still. Sometimes it's a drive. Sometimes it's music that puts me into a meditative state. It's water. Anytime I need to recharge, I get in water. So I go down to the ocean.
Is that why you picked the beautiful waterfall for Holy Grail as a cover?
Sort of. For people who are into astrology, my top 4, my sun, moon, rising, and Venus are all water signs. So I'm like extremely sensitive. So water is a huge thing for me. And so, it's a waterfall. There's actually a really funny story about this cover shoot, but that has to do with the kind of I don't know if I should tell it, but it's hilarious. But yes, water is very important to me, but I'll get in water. So if I'm struggling, I get in a lake, a river, ocean. If I can't do that, I will make a salt bath with baking soda and herbs. But it's just the basic things to reconnect me to my body and to just remember that I'm also a human. And then I have structures in place. So I don't overextend myself. When I don't bend the rules for people, I'm not a people pleaser anymore, right? So it comes back to boundaries. When you have good physical and energetic boundaries, it's amazing the amount of work and the amount of space you can hold for somebody without it draining you. But if you don't have those good energetic boundaries or physical boundaries, you can be drained very easily by doing this work.
Johanna, if there was one takeaway today of this conversation for somebody who's feeling right now disconnected and is maybe looking for a sign to change their life, what do you want to tell them?
Well, one, you're never disconnected. When you feel disconnected, it means you're disconnected from the truth of who you really are. So when you feel that, that's your sign that your soul is calling you to remember your truth. And that truth is that you are worthy and that you are enough and that you are special, or you would not exist at all. You would not exist. And it takes courage, but aren't you worth the courage and effort? Because most people, especially women, will break their backs to take care of their spouse or their children or their friends and move mountains to help people. Aren't you worth the same effort? Wouldn't you want that? Because here's the thing. You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. So if you don't think you're worth the effort of doing this work, of facing yourself, of changing your life, then nobody else will either. You are the writer, the reader, and the actor. You're all of it. And once you realize that, you can change everything.
Johanna, tell us more about how we can reach out to you before I let you go.
So you can go to johannaburkhardt.com. That's going to be my website. But I am on most platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can just search Johanna Burkhardt or official Johanna Burkhardt and you will find me. I have my TikTok channel and my YouTube channel probably has the most content. If you're looking for how-tos on how to shift and change your reality, those are the places you're really going to want to be.
Wonderful. And you also have a podcast. Is that on your website?
Yeah. So Cosmic Blonde is my podcast. It's on all platforms as well. I'm getting ready to start season 3 at the end of September. So I'm excited about that. And then, of course, you can find my books, Holy Grail and Become Your Own Superhero, on Amazon. My upcoming book, Desperately Seeking Me, the road to finding and choosing myself, isn't out yet. I am actually in the process of searching for a publisher. So as soon as I get a publishing deal, we'll have more on that one.
Johanna, thank you so much for sitting with us today and sharing everything that you've shared. We went over and beyond in every possible way. I think that the listeners are going to leave with so much information, but also a lot of introspection happening after this powerful and deep podcast. I want to thank you very much for choosing 60 Minutes with a Woman and once again sitting with us. It was a true honor and pleasure. I loved it.
Pleasure's all mine.